The British government became increasingly concerned by the growth in the number of radio stations off her coasts, and the threat of action against them grew almost daily by mid-year 1966. The government alleged that the pirates stole wavelengths and interfered with shipping. Legislation was only a matter of time, and dramatic events in June 1966, centred around the radio station Radio City in the Thames estuary, precipitated it.
Very, very popular Diane Perez and Nicky Scott there with this week's number 27 sound on City, and that is called Shaboom, Shaboom. Radio City time, 12 and a half before 4 o'clock. Mike side Ian McRae with the hits of today in Monstrous Macca's Music Show.
Radio City, it sounds fine on 299.
Members of the British Houses of Parliament were shocked by events on and around the radio station. Radio Caroline Newsbeat of June 22nd, 1966 tells the story.
Radio Caroline Newsbeat, fast and factual.
37-year-old Reg Calvert, manager of many pop beat groups, including The Fortunes, and owner of the offshore radio station Radio City, was shot dead in a country mansion near Saffron Walden, Essex, early this morning. A man is reported to be helping the Essex police in their inquiries into the shooting. A shroud of mystery has surrounded the activities of Mr. Calvert during the past 2 weeks, with conflicting reports being issued as to the future of his station. Last Monday, the radio chief asked detectives from Scotland Yard to investigate an alleged boarding of his radio station by unnamed people.
Reg Calvert, owner of Radio City, had been shot dead by the leader of a rival pirate group. Radio London and Radio Caroline, and the rivalry between them, were also involved in events around the station, which was boarded and occupied. These events became headline news. Alarm grew markedly in government circles, and the following month, the Postmaster General announced the introduction of the Marine Offences Bill, which would make it an offence for a British citizen to be connected in any way with the offshore broadcasters. By spring 1967, the pirates were in their death throes. The fort-based stations had been successfully prosecuted, declared to be in territorial waters, and closed down. The shipborne stations, with the exception of Radio Caroline, announced they would close. Radio 355, formerly Britain Radio, put it this way.
Regrettably, we have to announce the closure of Radio 355 owing to the effects of the British government's Marine Offences Bill, which becomes law in mid-August. Radio 355 will cease broadcasting at 12 o'clock midnight this coming Saturday, August the 5th. Needless to say, all of us connected with 355 are very sad at the impending closure of the station. However, we do hope that you will enjoy the remaining programs coming your way on Radio 355.
Radio London closed down at 3 p.m. on August 14, 1967. Just a few hours before the Marine Offences Bill became law.
Some mention has been made of the fact that mine was the first voice to be heard on Radio London. It will also be the last in regrettably few minutes from now. But before that, please allow me to introduce the Managing Director of Radio London, Mr. Philip Birch.
During the past 3 years, I feel that Radio London has done very little harm, but an awful lot of good. During those 3 years, it's helped organizations such as the Institute for the Blind, Oxfam, the Cancer Fund, the Lifeboat Service, to raise funds for their very worthwhile causes. It saved the life of an airman who bailed out of over the North Sea and was picked up by Radio London's tender. In closing, I would like to give my personal thanks to all of the staff at 17 Curzon Street, to all of the DJs, to Captain Bunninger and his crew, to the 1,027 advertisers who have supported Radio London in the last 3 years and used Radio London to help sell their products. But most of all, I'd like to thank you, one of the 12 million listeners in the UK and the 4 million listeners in Holland, France, Belgium, Germany, and the other countries on the continent, for all of the support that you have given Radio London during the last 3 years.
Big L time is 3 o'clock and Radio London is now closing down.
Big L.
At midnight on the same day as Radio London, Radio 270 closed down.
I also have a telegram. As you probably know, our managing director, Mr. Wolf Proudfoot, is in Spain right now, and unfortunately he couldn't be here with us at the very, very end. But I received this telegram from him about 2 days ago, and it reads very, very short, very, very sweetly. It says, "To all Radio 270 listeners and staff, we will return." Signed Wolf Proudfoot, Barcelona. So there you go. Oh dear. It's getting so near the time I don't know whether I'm coming or going. And lastly, but by no means least, as they've already been mentioned in Mr. Dale's letter, but I feel I must mention them again, somebody else has really made this possible, or made the 15 months of 270 possible. All the advertisers, of course, all the national, and of course all the local advertisers, which are just as important. And I hope we've done you some kind of a service out there. And thank you very, very much for your loyalty and for your support. We really do appreciate it. And that just about winds it up. As I said, I think I've thanked everybody for everything. And, well, that's it. I'm getting a bit, oh boy, I think I'm cracking up or something. 5 minutes now. That gives us 4 minutes left, so I've got time to play one more item.
Land of hope and glory.
Well, we have exactly 60 seconds left. So I haven't said my goodbyes yet. Well, you already know my sentiments. I'm going to miss you one hell of a lot. And from me, Rusty, I hope maybe someday soon, in the not-too-distant future, we'll meet on the air again very, very soon. This is Radio 270, broadcasting on 1115 kilocycles in the medium wave band. The time is 1.5 minutes before midnight, and we're now closing down. On behalf of the 270 men, the radio technicians, the captain and the crew, and everybody on shore concerned with Radio 270, this is Rusty Allen wishing you God bless and Godspeed. Good night and goodbye. Radio 270 is now closing down.
Radio Caroline, however, continued defiantly.
This is Caroline South on 259 meters in the medium wave band. The continuing sound of free radio. Now the one and only, and your future in commercial radio.
This is Radio Caroline International, the home of the British Music Explosion.
Caroline became the voice of free radio and stood alone against the British government. Disc jockey Johnny Walker of Caroline.
This is a story of man's fight for freedom. The beginning is in the past, the middle is now, the end is in the future. It is a story of sadness and of triumph. August the 14th, as disc jockeys Robbie Dale, Johnny Walker and Ross Brown leave Liverpool Street, London. Spurred on toward the sea by the hundreds of cheering people. See them now as they stand on the tender. There are tears in their eyes as their families, their homes, and their loved ones are left behind. 3 o'clock on this Monday afternoon, and on 266, Big Lil is heard for the last time. Caroline is alone. These 3 men prepare for midnight. For in a few hours' time, they are to challenge the might and the power of the British government. They will become criminals. Midnight approaches. It is August the 15th. Johnny Walker announces that Caroline belongs to you, that she loves you and she will continue. The Beatles sing All You Need Is Love. These 2 men sound happy, but underneath they are sad, for they now know that they have passed the point of no return. They are not sad for long. They are joined by other men who also gave up so much to fight for freedom. The seas are rough and cruel, life is hard, but as each day passes, the moment of triumph grows nearer. The British people rally round. They send food, they send comfort, and they send their love. All you need is love, and love overcomes. The British government relents. Caroline raises her anchor and heads for England. See her now majestically and proudly sailing up the river toward the capital that has welcomed so many victors in British history. But none as victorious as these men. They stand on the deck waving to the millions of people who line the Thames. This time the tears flooding from their eyes are tears of happiness. The insurmountable odds have been surmounted. They reunite with their families, with their friends, with their loved ones. We are near the end of our story. London's skyline has a new landmark pointed toward the heavens. Caroline's Ariel. At last beaming out its love and music to a free and peaceful nation. We have overcome. The battle is over. Free radio becomes a way of life, but never taken for granted. For no man will ever forget Monday, August the 14th, 1967.
But even Radio Caroline died. On the morning of March the 3rd, 1968, shortly after 6 a.m., in a carefully planned operation, both Caroline ships were towed from their positions by tugs owned by the Dutch Weissmuller tug and salvage firm. An ironic end indeed for the so-called pirates, ended by real piracy. Only 2 offshore radio stations remained in the whole world: Radio Veronica off the Dutch coast, and, on the other side of the world, Radio Hauraki off New Zealand. Hauraki had had its problems as well. Its first vessel, Thierry 1, had gone aground in heavy seas and become a total loss in January 1968. Its listeners heard of its plight live in the Thierry 1's last dramatic broadcast.
We're endeavouring to anchor on the rocks, and we're going to send up a flare. Anyone observes this flare, or anyone who knows anyone who's in the area, would they please advise them? Would anyone also listening please advise Auckland Radio at Music Point by telephone of our price and tell them that we... This is the MV Thierry. We're on the rocks on the Wangapara side of Great Barrier Island. We're endeavouring to anchor on the rocks, and we're going to send up a flare. Anyone observes this flare, or anyone who knows anyone who's in the area, would they please advise them? We're going back onto the rocks now. I repeat that. We're receiving on frequency 2182. Receiving on frequency 2182. We have gone aground near the entrance to the Wangapara Harbour. The Wangapara Harbour on Great Barrier Island We have gone aground on the entrance to Wangapara Harbour on Great Warrior Island. We're hitting continuously now. I don't know how long I can stay with you. There we've gone again. That was rather bad, actually. We've gone aground on Wangapara. There. Abandoned ship, abandoned ship. I'm turning the microphone up loud. Abandoned ship, abandoned ship. The siren has gone. We are abandoning ship. The siren has gone. We are abandoning ship. The rocks are within swimming distance. I've got to go now. I've turned the microphone up loud. I hope the transmitter holds out. We are abandoning ship. Our position is the Wangapara Harbour. I love you, Mum and Dad.
In January 1970, Radio North Sea International commenced transmissions from off the Dutch coast. On August 29th of the same year, it was involved in an incident no less dramatic than that involving Radio Haraki.
Okay, we'll continue on with some pop music so they know that this is Radio North Sea International. Radio North Sea International, by the way, right now is under attack from a tug called the Husky from Willemstad. I repeat this for all legal authorities so that they know exactly who is involved in this particular situation. The tug Husky from Willemstad, owned by a Meneer Herman, along with his launch, the Viking, which is registered in Panama, also owned by Mr. Herman. Radio North Sea International, located on the boat Mebo 2, has been involved in a legal case with Mr. Kees Munders, as many of our readers in Holland know. And now Mr. Munders, because he has lost his appeal, has now resorted to the position of cutting the anchor chain on the Mebo 2 in an attempt to tow us into land.
Time now, 20 minutes to 4 o'clock. This is an account of what exactly happened this afternoon. At approximately 25 minutes to 2 this afternoon, the tug Husky from Willemstad was sighted from the ship, from our ship Mebo. Also the launch Viking, which is registered in Panama. I'll give you details of the ships in just a few moments. At a certain Kees Manders, owner of nightclubs in Amsterdam, came aboard to talk about taking over the ship. Now, it appears that Kees Manders had some sort of business agreement with us at some time that it was never signed, and he was never in actual fact a director of this company, and he now feels that he wishes to take the ship away from us. In our own way, we are prepared, but we do need some help, so please stand by in case there's any way in which you can help us. It's a quarter to 4, this is Radio North Sea International, the voice of Europe, the sound of the world, on the air 24 hours daily. Radio North Sea International broadcasts from the radio ship Mebo 2, anchored in international waters at latitude 52 degrees, 10 minutes, 12 seconds north. That's latitude 52 degrees, 10 minutes, 12 seconds north, longitude 4 degrees, 13 minutes, 30 seconds east. Longitude 4 degrees, 13 minutes and 30 seconds east on the following frequencies. 217 meters, 220 meters in the medium wave band, that's 1367 kilocycles. VHF, channel 44, 100 megacycles, and in the shortwave 49 meter band, 6.2 megacycles, and to the world on 31 meters, 9.94 megacycles. Our postal address, Post Office Box 113, 8047, Zurich, in Switzerland.
On June 14th, 1970, a new offshore radio station, Capital Radio, started transmissions.
At the beginning of the long tone, the time will be exactly 1200 hours. 12 noon, and time for lunch with Capital Radio.
Ici Radio Capital.
Hier ist Capital Radio.
Hier ist Capital Radio.
Aquí, Radio Capital.
This is Capital Radio, broadcasting on 1115 kilohertz, 270 meters on the medium wave band. This is Capital Radio, owned and operated by professional broadcasters dedicated to free radio. That is to say, radio free of government interference.
Gradually, European governments have acted against offshore radio stations. Today, 3 radio stations broadcast from the sea to European listeners: Capital Radio, Radio North Sea International, and Radio Veronica. The future is important not only from the point of view of the music they provide. These stations stand for a principle, the principle of radio free of government control. I very much hope that you, the listener, will think about what these storm-lashed little ships on the North Sea really mean.